Today I'm afraid my video is a little bit more for us ladies because I want to talk about my period kit, what I have inside and why I bring it, and how I use it to make those special days a little bit more stress-free while traveling. Because if I'm honest, getting my period while traveling can be quite annoying. I feel like the common sense out there for us minimalist traveling ladies is that we should use reusable products like cups and that they're an awesome space saver, and that's what we should be using. And while that is true, and it may indeed save me a lot of space, especially on longer trips, I realized after one too many stressful moments in like cramped airplane bathrooms or dirty toilets somewhere that this is just not for me. Because for me, minimalist travel does not mean that I have to bring the most minimum amount of things. It means that I reduce my stress level to a minimum and increase my comfort as much as I can with one bag. So in this video, I want to talk about why I ditched those reusable period products while traveling. And I'm also sharing my very unfancy, practical and more or less stressful way to handle my period on the road. So there's no environmental guilt in this video or no complicated routines. I just share what I bring, how I stay hygienic on a long trip and why this works so much better for me and helps me to enjoy my trips while reducing my period anxiety. So first, I wanted to talk about my experience with reusable products while traveling and why in the end they were not for me and I decided to just use one-time products. So over the last few years, I tried lots of different products. I tried several cups that did not work for me at all. I tried a disc and I also tried those reusable period panties. If I probably had a home and would not be traveling non-stop, I would probably use those panties and the discs because those worked fairly well for me. But while traveling, these products are really not for me and there's several reasons for that. First off, most restrooms do not have a sink inside the stall. And I don't feel comfortable rinsing my cup in a shared bathroom when other people would come in at any time, or even worse, if someone else would be brushing their teeth in the same place or something. So for a while, I tried to bring a water bottle with me into the stall to rinse it off. But to be honest, trying to discreetly bring a bigger water bottle into a public restroom stall and then trying to rinse off the cup over the toilet without dropping it, or even worse, making a mess on my shoes or in the whole stall, well, let's put it this way, that's just a level of coordination that I do not possess. Another thing that made it less than ideal for me is that I did not find a good way to regularly disinfect those things. For example, with the period cups, as far as I understand, you're supposed after every period to boil it for a while to get all the bacteria and whatever out. And I honestly did not find a good way to do that while traveling. I don't want to use someone else's pens or pots to do that, to be honest. I think that's just not a nice thing to do. I also don't want to use a water cooker in a hotel room or something. That's just not something I'm willing to do, and I hope that no one else does. I have lots of anxieties about those water cookers in hotel rooms anyways, since I read the fantastic travel hack that you should boil your white socks while traveling in that thing. So yeah. The same is with the period panties. You're usually supposed to give it a hot wash, and I usually hand wash while traveling. The water in the sink is usually not hot enough, so this is just not a good solution for me. The next thing is that in some countries, I honestly worried if the water there is really clean enough to rinse something that will go back into my body. I am terrified of leaking and ruining someone else's bed sheets or mattresses. I honestly don't know why the world insists on having white bed sheets. I get very anxious then just feeling that the whole content of one of those cups would drop on the mattress or something. So I regularly wake up and check if nothing has leaked, and for me, honestly, this is the least relaxing way to sleep and wake up while traveling. I know that the chances are very low that this situation would actually happen, but I prefer to not even get into that situation. Another thing that made it difficult for me was the drying time of the period panties. So if I got them to wash in hot and humid climates, there is just no way to reuse it again quickly after giving it a wash. It usually takes 2 days or so to dry, so I would need to bring several period panties with me, and that's also a lot of space. But the main downside for me is just the lack of hygienic conditions I encounter while traveling. There's tiny dirty toilets, long bus rides where you have to use the toilet on the bus. And that reminds me actually of one of my least favorite travel memories. We were on a longer bus ride once from Berlin to Munich. And I don't know what happened, if the toilet was broken or if just the other people in that bus did not care at all. But basically, every time the bus hit the brakes or went downhill, the water started to flood out from underneath the bathroom door. And when it went uphill, it went back. And of course, this is the day where I get my period. So there I was, having to deal with my period in a dirty, tiny bathroom, approximately the size of a shoebox, in a moving bus. So there is no way I would have been able to deal with a tampon or change a cup and still keep my dignity or my health. I'm not sure. And I can tell you that I have never been happier that I could just quickly jump in there and put a pad, and that's it. I did not have to touch anything. I did not have to deal with anything. No problem, no stress, or less stress. So after this long monologue of why reusable things while traveling are not for me, as you can guess, I prefer to just use a combination of normal tampons and normal pads. And to make my life easier, everything I need to deal with for one period is inside this tiny pouch. And before I decided to pack everything in this small pouch, I was one of those straight tampon travelers. So at some point I had just in case tampons, I think, in every pocket and every compartment of my bag. But unfortunately for me, I noticed if I just stuff those things everywhere, they also surface in the worst moments. So, for example, I'm at the passport control at the airport and want to take out my passport, and the tampon comes flying. So for that, now everything stays in this one pouch and I got no more surprises. I bought this pouch for a few euros on Amazon. Actually, I bought a pack of 2. They were like 7 or 8 euros, I believe. And I will link them in the description below. So the way that I deal with my period now is that I predict for the upcoming trip how often I will get my period, and then I either bring 1 or 2 pouches with me. I usually track my period in Apple Health. There's also other apps available that do the same thing, but that gives me quite a correct estimate of when my periods will arrive in the next few months. And then I compare those dates with my next trip, and then I know how many period pouches I need to bring with me. And now that I'm staying for 2 months in Italy, I brought both with me. So now let's talk about what I actually bring with me inside those pouches. If you already watched a few of my videos, then you will know that I never really organize my things by category. I always try to organize them by when and where I will need them. So everything I need for one period is inside this pouch. And I try to calculate exactly how much I need so I don't waste any space in my bag. So the way I did that is that I just kept track of the products I used for a few months to know how much I need on an average period. So for me, the most I needed on one period was 5 pads and 7 tampons. So that's the amount I decided to go with. But I added 1 extra because just in case, you never know. So I'm traveling with 6 pads and 8 tampons. And in addition to that, not inside that pouch, I have 2 tampons and 1 pad that I have in my little just in case bag inside my backpack that I always travel with. Doesn't matter if I'm expecting my period or not. But I always pack a few more things inside this pouch that I find useful when I get my period. I always have in here some hand sanitizer or some of those single packaged hygienic wipes, because it just makes me feel better if I know I can disinfect my hands before dealing with those things. I usually bring a few painkillers that I need to survive those first few days. Especially while traveling, I always feel that, I don't know if I get dehydrated while flying or if it's just the stress or whatever, I feel that my cramps are worse. So I always have some painkillers in here. Another thing I have in here usually is some dog poop bags, just a roll. I usually pick them up very cheaply in supermarkets and stuff. I regularly find myself in restrooms without a trash can, and this way I can just package it in here, put it in my pocket or somewhere else in my bag, and then discreetly discard it when I get the next chance. And here I have those 6 hygienic pads, I have my tampons, and I also bring a few of those panty liners, just in case. And I really enjoy having the ease of use of having it together in one pouch. The last thing I wanted to talk about now is why not just restocking it on the road? Wouldn't that be much more minimalist to just buy the things as I need them? I used to do that a lot in the past, but it's not really my preferred method, to be honest. There's different products in different countries, and once I added up with a bed the size of a surfboard, and I really felt like wearing diapers for the whole trip. And I don't like too much those pads that have like the fleece inside, because I find that when I go hiking or on a long walk, it all just starts to roll up and not work properly for me. Or in many countries, the most popular type of tampons is the one with the applicator. I honestly don't know how to use them, and they're just so much trash for me and so much bulky. They need up so much more space than just a normal tampon. But for example, in countries like Spain, that was the main one you could get. So I had a hard time finding normal tampons for me. So as you can tell, after many years now of dealing with my period, I have my favorite products that I just prefer to use. So in case you're wondering, I'm using OB tampons in the size Super because they get me through the stronger days and also let me sleep worry-free at night. And I use the Always Infinity pads that have the gel inside because they're just so small, but they soak up a lot and I don't feel them when I'm wearing them. So I really like them. So I have not found any products that I like using as much as those two. And I know that this is very specific. I want a certain exact product, and this is something that makes it difficult to just replenish things while traveling. And another reason why I prefer to bring my stuff versus replenishing on the road is that usually when I buy them on the road, I always have some leftovers after my period. So if I have to carry products with me anyways, either before my period when I bring them from home or after my period when I buy them, then I honestly just prefer to bring my favorite products from home with me. And this way I get to use the things that I like. And I also like it that I don't have to worry if my period would arrive a few days too early, which can happen with traveling and time changes and whatever. And I'm in a remote location, so this always gives me a lot of peace of mind. So that's my very unglamorous but very functional way of doing things. And I also think that the perfect setup does not exist because we all have different preferences and like to travel differently. So if using a menstrual cup works for you and you have the setup to keep it hygienic while traveling, that's amazing. But for all of us who just could not make it work and just feel like bad travelers or bad minimalists because we prefer the simplicity of just a normal pad or a normal tampon, then maybe consider this your permission slip to just use whatever is most comfortable for you. I think traveling is already full of variables that we cannot control, delayed flights, bad weather, language barriers, and I think that our periods shouldn't be one of those things. So as you can guess, for me, minimalism means not just removing things, but removing worry and stress. And sometimes for me, that means to just bring my period kit with me versus having to find a clean toilet somewhere on the way. I really hope that someone out there finds this video useful, and I hope it helped someone to feel a little bit less stressed about your next trip when you have to deal with your period. And if you're willing to share how you deal with that topic while traveling, then please write it in the descriptions, because I would love to hear how you deal with those things. And if you liked this video, then consider subscribing to my monthly newsletter or subscribing to this channel, or maybe liking this video. That would make me very happy. And other than that, safe travels, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye!